Hey, what's up, guys? Today I wanted to talk about the 7 practical tips that have helped me get to financial freedom faster. If you guys are new here, my name is Richard. I'm a yield farmer and investor. If you want to take a look at my yield farming portfolio, I share this monthly update here. But with crypto and smart investing, I've been able to build an investment portfolio that is a few $100,000 that is now able to cover my expenses without having to actually actively work for money. And I currently still work as I'm still trying to grow my portfolio to be even bigger. I help consult and manage a few private 8-figure funds in Asia. So I do know a little bit about investing, and because it's part of my job, I've basically spent a ton of time looking into investing. So hopefully these 7 tips help you guys out so that you can reach financial freedom faster. And just before we begin, again, I'm not your financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own research before making any investment decisions. So when I say financial freedom, I don't mean that you have like millions and millions of dollars that you're able to just spend however you want. I simply mean that your passive income is greater than your regular everyday expenses, maybe including some vacation here and there. But basically, you're financially free if you don't really need to work for money, right? And again, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't work. I still work because I want to still grow my portfolio and I just enjoy working. But this is the first step before you actually reach that like multiple 7 figures or 8-figure portfolios. This is what we want to try to achieve first, right? So the first tip that have helped me a lot is just very simple, is spend less than I earn. And you guys have probably heard this a bunch of time if you guys have been watching some like personal finance YouTube channels or reading some investment books. But this is like the basic that you actually really need to master, right? If you guys are always spending more than you earn, it doesn't matter how much you earn, you will be poor long term. You will have to pay debt, or if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're never investing and you're just spending every penny that you've earned. Over time, you're going to have nothing to show for your hard work. So the first step is to actually spend less than you earn. And the way you guys can think about it is, let's say this is a bucket, and by working a job or yield farming, airdrop farming, whatever you're doing to basically make an active income, what you're basically doing is putting water in this bucket, right? And what's going to happen over time is this bucket is going to fill up. And eventually, if you guys reach a certain level, then you will be financially free because you will have enough asset generating passive income to cover your expenses, right? That's what we call financial freedom. But the main mistake is that people are just spending way too much. They have a very leaky bucket where the water comes in and then just comes out, right? This bucket could be like your investment account or your bank account. Whenever people need money, they're just withdrawing from their investment and then spending their investment or just whatever asset that is inside your bank account. You're constantly like spending that balance down. For me, building wealth is not about like how much I can make. Sometimes my income fluctuates by quite a lot, especially because we're in crypto. If you're relying on that for your income, sometimes your income will be lower, sometimes your income would be more. But as long as you spend less than you earn and invest the rest, you will never run out of money, right? It's about how much you get to keep and how much you grow your portfolio by. I've heard of a ton of doctors, engineers, or lawyers that are making a lot of money, but they're still living paycheck to paycheck because they always spend like more than they earn or roughly equal to the amount that they earn. And the second thing that have really helped me a lot is to focus on buying assets rather than liabilities. So when we say asset, it typically means like one of two things or both. It would grow in value, and ideally, it also has cash flow. This is why I really like to invest into liquidity pools and yield farming, is because I can earn a ton of cash flow. I use that cash flow to pay for my expenses or to grow my portfolio even further. And then over time, I would have more and more assets, right? This is true for dividend paying stocks as well. There are some ETFs like ACHD that is focused on more value stocks that have a strong balance sheet and is growing their dividends over time that you could invest in and basically get a steady source of cash flow. But what we want to avoid is liabilities. things that do not increase in value, it decreases in value over time, or it costs you money to maintain. For example, if you guys are buying a expensive house, you have a mortgage on it, and you're spending a ton of time and money to renovate your house and to maintain your house, then it's not really an asset, right? It's a liability. But if you guys are, for example, buying a place to live in, that is very likely to grow in value over time. It's still an asset, in my opinion, even though it doesn't cash flow. But ideally, you want to focus on cash flowing assets so that you could grow your capital. And if you're impressing other people by buying a ton of liabilities, like a really fancy car, but you have to take a loan out on it, the value is depreciating every single year. And then you have negative cash flow on top of that. It's just going to give you a lot of stress and pressure, especially if you guys have to work a job and then something unexpected come up, you lose your job or the economy is just really bad, then you would regret having a bunch of liabilities that is costing you money, right? So that's really important. Focus on buying good assets that are likely to appreciate in value over time and ideally also earn us cash flow. The third tip that have helped me a lot is invest first, then spend. So this concept I learned from a book called The Richest Man of Babylon. My dad gave me that book a few years back, but something that really stuck with me is to focus on investing first rather than spending your income. A lot of times people that make successful trades or that are farming airdrops, when they're getting like the income from crypto, it might be tempting to think about, okay, what am I going to spend on rather than focusing on, okay, I'm going to basically compound my investment, roll it into the next investment rather than keep spending that money, right? We want to try to invest first. And it's the same if you guys are working a job. Let's say you have a $5,000 per month of income. Maybe your plan is to invest at least 10% of your paycheck. Then we want to basically take that $500 out first to invest before we actually budget and spend for that $4,500, right? You have to be really intentional about investing. What a lot of people do instead is they get that $5,000 paycheck. They go through the whole month not tracking their expenses, not knowing how much money they have left, not really being intentional. And then at the end of the month, if they have money left over, then they invest, right? We don't want to do that. We want to invest first and then spend second. If you guys are really valuing financial freedom and you want to build your wealth quicker, this is the way to do it, especially if you guys never had really high income. I never had really high income and I was able to build like a pretty big portfolio. In most years, my income was less than 20K per year and I was still able to make it. You don't need a large income if you're able to do all of these things and over time invest and grow your portfolio. And one side note on spending as well, I typically like to focus on spending on things that I really enjoy. For me, that's like food and just maybe some traveling. These two is probably what I spend on the most because it allows me to get more value out of life. And because of that, I save money in a lot of other areas, like going out and partying or buying really expensive watches or clothes. I don't do any of that because I don't get value out of it, right? If you guys get value out of those things, then be sure to budget for that and save on the things that you actually don't get value out of. So being more intentional with spending would also help you cut down on some of the needless expenses. But we can only cut our expenses so far, right? So what we actually want to focus on is earning more money. If you guys are already having expenses under control, you're budgeting, you're tracking your expenses, your housing and your car is not that expensive, then what we really want to work on is focus on earning more money. And I'm not really here to teach you how to like really earn a ton of money from like starting a business or anything. This channel is mainly about yield farming and investing. But again, the formula is like to spend less and then to earn more, right? If you spend less than you earn, then you would never actually run out of money. I used to be really cheap and try to save as much money as possible. But I find out that like if I don't earn more money, I simply would not get ahead and build my portfolio, right? I used to teach martial arts when I was living in the US. The income wasn't much, but I was still in college and I was doing something I enjoy. So running a martial arts school was pretty good. But after I moved back to Asia, I struggled to make more money. So it's really tough to build a portfolio, right? Then I started working in the investing and finance sector, as well as freelancing art part time. That's how I was able to basically boost my earning. In 2021, there was like a pretty big NFT craze, and I was positioned for that because I had some art skills. A lot of those projects unfortunately didn't make it, but it was a good way for me to earn some money while putting in some work. That is allowing me to grow my portfolio, right? If you guys find that you're already saving money, you're struggling to grow your portfolio, what we really want to focus on is basically earning more money. It sounds very simple, but it's not easy, right? It takes time to be able to build skills to make more money. For example, even with art, I've been basically doing art for a few years. I'm still not like at the top level, but like the top level artists actually make a pretty decent income from that. So if you're good at anything, it's going to be easier and easier to make more money. With yield farming and investing, I've spent thousands and thousands of hours basically studying it. And that's how I'm able to leverage my time as well, because now a ton of people are coming to me, asking me to teach them like through a course or a coaching program. And that's how I'm able to earn much more income compared to what I was doing before. So as long as you're building skills, you're finding like a lot of painful problems that people are facing, you're providing solutions, then it's very likely that you will be able to earn more money. But that's the thing, if you guys don't focus on earning more, you're never going to make more money. The fifth goal that have really helped me is to have an end goal. If you guys are watching this channel, it's very likely that you want to earn more money. We want more passive income so that we don't have to work a job if we don't want to, right? And spend the rest of our time to do the things that we enjoy instead. So this is what I call the freedom formula. It's very simple. You're going to take your annual expense and then you're going to divide it by the APR you can generate. And the APR you could generate would depend on the level of risk you're willing to take. For me, the absolute minimum that I need to maintain per year is only $20,000 because I live in Asia. This could be different for you if you live in like a higher cost of living areas. But usually if you're in that case, your salary is probably higher as well. So you want to set a higher target. But for the APR, what I really like to use is 25%, 10%, and 3%. So that's like the three targets there that I need to hit. So the first target is 20,000 divided by 0.25 because it's 25%, right? I only need to maintain a $80,000 portfolio that is earning me a 25% APR to be able to live off of my investment. And you can see my portfolio is greater than that. The APR is fluctuating between like 25 to 75%. So very comfortable with that number already. And the next target is 10%. So if I have $20,000 worth of expenses per year, I generate a conservative 10% APR, then I would need to maintain a portfolio that is worth at least $200,000 to be able to fund my lifestyle and live off of my passive income. And to have even more peace of mind, to have really safe returns, the number I like to use is a 3%. They've done a ton of studies on this. It's pretty safe to withdraw like 3 to 4% of your portfolio if you're not planning to grow your portfolio and basically live off of that for your retirement, right? So if it's $20,000, I divide it by 0.03, then I would need roughly 600 something thousand dollars to have a bigger safety net and maybe have a larger portion in traditional finance market where it's not as volatile as crypto. So those are like my three target numbers here, 80K, 200K, and 666K. I've personally already reached these two goals on the bottom here. I'm still working on this third one. But the idea here is that you need to know the exact number that you need to hit to be able to generate enough passive income to cover your expenses, right? With concentrated liquidity pools, our APR is going to be much higher than traditional finance. But at the same time, it's also good to have like a higher target so that you could shift some of your investment portfolio to something more conservative to de-risk and diversify your portfolio in case there's a sharp market drawdown. And the sixth tip that have really helped me a lot is to stay consistent or automate your investments. So a few minutes ago, I gave an example of a $5,000 of income, right? A lot of different banks you can set up like auto transfer. So you transfer $500 to your investment account, whether it's in crypto or in TradFi markets. You could put that directly into the investment account. Every single month, you can manage those investments either with yield farming or buying stocks. And then the rest, it goes to like different accounts for spending, for taxes, and stuff like that, right? If you guys are struggling to stay consistent with your investing, just spend the time to automate the payments so that whenever you receive your paycheck, you don't have to think about it. And once you're consistent, you just gotta stay on track for a very long time. Let compound interest do the work and grow your portfolio from there, right? Which leads me to my next point is don't rush. A lot of people is trying to grow their portfolio really quickly. They're trying to hit like a 5 to 10x on different altcoins that they buy. But sometimes if we're rushing to our destination, we'll never get there because we could make a ton of mistakes in the process and basically lose our capital. Or if we're just taking too much risk, then we will lose our money. So that's our target here. And let's just say you're driving a car here and this is the road, right? And this probably looks like your crypto portfolio as well. It goes up and down, but ultimately, hopefully it goes up and to the right over time. What some people do is they try to go really fast, make a ton of money, and then sometimes they just lose it all and then just like crash and burn, right? This is what we want to avoid. If you guys are taking too much risk, sometimes it's just better to go slowly, even if your portfolio is growing lesser than like a lot of other people's portfolio. It doesn't matter if you get there slower as long as you get there. Too many people go all in into one investment, especially on like a lower cap altcoin, only to find out that they would have done better if they just stick to like a safer and more consistent strategy. This is also true if you guys are doing stuff like squeezing the range, setting really tight ranges, getting like 100, 300% APR on liquidity pools. But if the market dumps really hard, you're basically giving back all of your gains back to the market because the ranges you set was way too tight, right? So don't rush the process. Avoid get rich quick strategies like squeezing the range, going too heavily into altcoins, trying to hit it big with like a very low cap meme coin. It's just very difficult. With every one person that made $1 million from meme coins, there's probably more than hundreds or thousands of others that lost all of their money gambling in meme coins. So that's the 7 tips I have for you guys today. The first one is to always spend less than you earn. The second one is to buy assets and not liabilities. The third is to invest first rather than spend your money first when the paycheck hits your bank account. The fourth is to focus on earning more money if you're already saving money. The fifth is to have an end goal in mind. You always want to know where you're going. What's the portfolio value that you need to hit to reach financial freedom? The sixth is to stay consistent with your investing or to automate the process so you're really consistent. And the seventh is to not rush and make sure that you're taking the time to manage risk properly so that you don't take too much risk and crash and burn. So I hope that was helpful, guys. A little bit more focus on general investing for this video. If you guys want to learn more about yield farming and investing, be sure to check out the other videos on my channel. I try to give you guys as much value as I can, so hopefully you can get to financial freedom faster. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.